Hello friends, welcome back to Aunt Debbie's Boutique. Today we're going to work on a patriotic quilt in honor of the 4th of July, which is coming up pretty soon. But before we get started on that, I need a little feedback from you. It's impossible for me to make a quilt top every week because I still have a full-time job. Maybe someday when I'm lucky enough to retire I can, but I can't put out a video every week with a complete quilt top on it, and that's what gets all the views, or it seems to me like. So I'm trying to decide whether to go to like once a month putting out a quilt video, or if you would be interested in smaller things. I recently did a zipper pouch video and it didn't get very many views. Of course, some of that is YouTube and their algorithm, but in the past I've done other things and they haven't gotten as many views. So would you comment below and first of all tell me if you are strictly a quilter and that's all you're interested in, or if you're interested in other sewing projects. Actually, quilting was the last thing I got into. My claim to fame is children's sewing for children. That's what I love to do and what I've done most of my life. But I can and have sewn just about anything except a wedding dress. I refuse to do that. But everything else I can do, and I have a lot of patterns in my shop, my Etsy store, that I've put up there that are patterns that I have created for different things. So just let me know, quilter only, that's all I want to see, or if you would be willing to watch other videos too. And secondly, tell me what your skill level is. I have geared this channel towards beginners, and I'm going to always do that to some degree. But I'd like to know if my audience is pretty much beginners, if people are intermediate, or if they are an advanced quilter or seamstress of any kind. So if you wouldn't mind, please just comment about those two items and it will help me decide how to move forward with this channel. Okay, the pattern that I've selected today is called Small Dashing Stars. It's a Missouri star quilt pattern. And because it is not a free pattern, it is one you have to purchase. So therefore I won't be giving you sizes of all the pieces, but their patterns are not very expensive and they put them on sale a lot too. This is a square quilt with 16 blocks. And I just love stars. Any kind of star block I'm attracted to. So we are going to make this out of patriotic colors, and I think it would be so pretty. So the first thing we need is 2 charm packs. Isn't that what they call them? Yeah, 5-inch squares. Of the same fabric, and the reason they want them to be the same is because you need 2 of every print. Well, as it turns out, all the prints that I put out here, I opened one of mine already. Only 2 of them didn't have 2 in that same pack. So you can get away with mixing 2 packs if enough of them have 2 squares of each fabric. But I'm using Benartex. You know, I seem to be attracted to their fabrics, and I can't ever say their name, but I'm using them all the time. But it's Benartex Traditions American Spirit by Cheryl Haynes. And these are 5x5. There's 42 pieces. Okay, they say to separate them into lights and darks, but these are the only lights in the whole package. There's just a few of them. And these I'm not going to use. I'll use most of these in some sort of neutral quilt sometime that I need that for. So I separate them into red and blue. And because that's you just need contrasting colors. You don't want them to be too similar. And then we need a background fabric, which I picked this color, which is very very close to these neutrals. So that's our background squares. Then we need some smaller squares. And then we're going to have a border around it, and it's going to be this color. I have not cut the border out yet because I don't know what size till I get it all put together. But we need, I believe it's 40, I don't know, it's more than that. We need a bunch of these little squares too for our, and what they are going to be is, see this smaller, it's not really a star, but a smaller little block within the quilt. That's what they're going to be, and then they will match the border that goes around the edge. We also need some sashing strips, and that's what all this is, but we won't need these for a long time, so I'm going to set them aside. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make one block for you, and then we will, I'll go make the rest of the blocks and come back and we'll put it together. So to do one block, I need to choose, how about this red print and this blue print. Those contrast and look real nice together. So I need 2 of each, which I have. And I need 2 of the background squares. I need 4 of this smaller square. And 4 of this border square. Actually, I've got them already over here because we need to draw a line on the back of them from corner to corner. And I used a white chalk pencil to do that. So I've got that. So this is what we need to do our first block. And you're going to love this because it's a real simple way to do half square triangles. Okay, I don't need those anymore, and I'll need these when I get, because I only have 9 pairs here, so I'm going to have some duplicate pairs. I'll just mix them up and not use the same 2 together. So we'll put those aside, turn my iron on for later. And we're going to lay these aside for a minute. And how we're going to match these up is we're going to put one of each of our prints together with right sides together. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch all the way around the edge. Then we're going to match the other one of each of these prints up with a background square. Make sure I got those turned. It's hard to tell the front from the back, but there is a difference. Okay. And so I'm going to take these over and sew a 1/4 inch around those. So let's go to the sewing machine and sew these 3 blocks. Now I have put on my 1/4 inch foot because that will help me keep a perfectly even seam all the way around. Okay, now that we've sewn those 4 blocks, I'm going to iron them real quick just to set the seams. Got a few stray threads, as always. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to lay this on here, and see the corner where we turned our corner? We want to lay it right there, and where we turned our corner here. We don't care about the corner edge of the fabric. We want to know where we sewed our corner in. And we're going to cut across there. I hope I cut through all that. Then we're going to do the same thing here, corner to corner, without moving our fabric. And now we have 4 half square triangles. Okay, the pattern doesn't tell you which way to iron them, I don't believe. Most of the time Missouri Star Quilt ones don't. Yeah. So I'm just going to iron these open. I don't really like to do that a lot, but I'm afraid it'll get complicated trying to figure out which way to iron everything. I haven't really sat down and thought it through. So for this tutorial, we're going to iron them open. The reason I don't normally like to iron them open is you don't have as strong as a seam when they're ironed open as you do when they're ironed to one side or the other. But if you don't want a lot of bulk in your quilt too. So if you haven't figured out, don't know which way to iron them, you can end up with a bulky quilt. So I'm just gonna iron these open. Personally, I like quilt patterns that tell me which way to iron them, that go the extra length and put that into the pattern itself, because I can usually figure it out if I think about it, but like one on this, it takes a lot of thinking, and sometimes my head just hurts. Okay. Now then, the next thing we want to do, we need to do this with all 4 of them. So let's get that done. All 4 of them. I'm sorry, with all 3 of them. Okay, there's all of our half square triangles. Now we have to trim them to 3 1/8 inch. So I'm going to take this diagonal line here, and I'm going to line it up on my seam. And make sure it's at least 3 1/8. Let me see. May have changed my blade again. Seems like I'm just constantly changing it. And then I'm going to flip it around and line this up on 3 1/8 on both sides. we have that block trimmed. Now I'll trim the rest of them off camera so you don't have to watch me do all that. But let's talk about the next step. Okay, the next thing we want to do is take this over to the machine, and we're going to put right sides together, our smaller block and our small block that matches the border, and we're going to sew right across here so that we have a corner edge on all of them. Now we can turn this block however we want to get it in the right corner, so I'm just going to sew all of them up here in the upper left-hand corner, and then we'll be ready to put our block together. So let's go back to the sewing machine. Okay, I switched presser foots and just put my regular presser foot back on because that little flange on my 1/4 inch, it's gonna want to drag this, get caught up in this fabric. I only use that when I can use it on the edge. Occasionally I get lazy and leave it on, and it always wants to pucker then. So even if I'm only going to be sewing 4 seams like I am now, I need to change it. So, and I'm using a leader just to get started so I don't have to backstitch, because I am going to chain all these. And I'm stitching right on the line, or maybe a little bit here to the right, just ever so slightly. So when we iron it open, it irons all the way open. All right, let's separate these. Then let's iron them open. And then trim the seams to 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to go back and iron these open because we have the same issue on this. There's 4 of them going to meet up, and we're going to have ironed some of them one direction and some of them the other direction if we want them to nest. So I'm just going to iron them open so I don't have to keep up with how many I have going which direction. It's a whole lot easier to iron to one side than it is to iron them open. Okay, it's time to put our block together. Those are the only sub blocks that we need. So first of all, we're going to start with these and put them in the 4 corners with the navy or border print facing outward. Then I'm going to have to look at my cheat sheet to do this right. I want a red and white, or red and background color there, and a blue and background color there. Okay, on the next row I need another blue and background color. Then I need a blue and red, and another blue and red, and a red and a background color. Okay, the next row we need a red and a background right here, like this, a blue and red, another blue and red, and a blue and a background color. And then this is our final row. We need a blue and a background color and a red background color. And that's the way our block goes together. So I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and I'm going to chain these. I'm going to put these two together and chain it to the next two, next two, next two. Then I'm going to come back up to the top and add this row and then add this row. So let's go do that, iron our seams open, and our block is done. Okay, it's all put together and ironed. There's a little wrinkle right there. And now I'm going to take it back over there and sew the rows together. And I will just make sure that I line up the seams perfectly and keep my seam at 1/4 inch. Now, does anybody see any block out of place? I don't. So I hope you don't either, because I usually don't catch them till it's all put together. But I'm trying to check more often. Okay, let's go put the rows together. Okay, you will probably notice that I did not clip the threads from when I chained them, and that's because it just holds it nicely in place right where I need it. So I don't clip those. So I don't clip them. And there's our finished block. Let's see how, looks like all our points came together good in the center, on the edges. I actually think that there's a little tiny bit off right there, but otherwise they all are just almost perfect. I really do think that ironing the seams open makes it a little easier to get your seams lined up and than nesting does. But you know, there's pros and cons to both ways. And the main thing is that now our seam, if it's tugged on, it'll come off a lot easier than if it was folded over to one side or the other. But by the time we get it all quilted, unless it's a huge quilt, and this one's not going to be huge, it's throw size, then this should be fine. Okay, I'll probably square it up around the edges, but now I'm going to go make the other 15 blocks, and in a blink of an eye I'll be back and we'll put the quilt together. All right, we have all of our blocks done, and I'm going to share them with you. They're all pretty. Looks like a lot of fuzz and string still. I took them all over to the ironing board. They got kind of bulky in the middle because that's where everything comes together. And I used some Mary Ellen's Best Press. I buy it by the gallon, just put it in a squirt bottle like this. And I squirted them all down and used a steam iron on them, and they now lay nice and flat. And there's no two stars alike, even though some of the fabrics are repeated. They're repeated with a different fabric. And I squared them all up. Now, I'm not real crazy about some of these really big prints, the really big stripes. I don't think they look as pretty as the smaller prints, but that's what I had to work with, and they're fine. I just prefer smaller prints here, so you can see the red ones in that same print. I love this one. And this one. Actually, I love them all. Okay, now it's time to put them together. And I have all my sashing pieces. And I'm going to show you how I'm just going to grab the top two here. Lay these others aside. There's going to be a sashing piece in between each two blocks, across a vertical sashing piece. I'm going to move this over just a little bit so I can show you too that we put one at the beginning and the end also. A lot of times we just do them in the middle and then there's a different border that goes around the edge, but not in this case. So we're going to sew these on. I'm going to pretty much force fit them to fit, which shouldn't be too difficult. If your block seems a little short, you just kind of tug it a little bit and it kind of stretches it out. Now, if you have to tug too much, you need to go back and work on your block a little bit because we don't want it bunching up. But it's just that we want our quilt nice and square in the end. Okay, I went ahead and put together the horizontal sashing, and it's just these same strips with one of these navy blue blocks in between them. And it's going to start on the outside edge here. And we're going to have one at the top and one at the bottom too. So once we get the rows also together. And this is our final quilt. I am so happy with it. I just love the way it turned out. I will get in a little closer so you can see some of the pattern. But I don't think there's any such thing as an ugly red, white, and blue quilt. Especially one that is meant for Independence Day. I am so thankful to live in a country where we not only have freedom of speech and expression and freedom of our own ideas, we have freedom to choose our own jobs, our own careers, our own hobbies, and the time to do them in, and we have the freedom to choose our own religion. And for that, I'm very thankful on this Independence Day. I thank God, and God bless America. I hope each and every one of you enjoy your Independence Day and this entire weekend. I will be back soon with another video. And don't forget to put in the comments whether you only want to watch quilting videos or whether you would watch other material as well. And if you are a beginner, intermediate, or advanced quilter. Thank you again for joining me today. Have a blessed holiday, and I will see you next time. Remember, whatever you do, do it to the glory of the Lord.